I've been using this for a while now, so I figured I would share some thoughts. This is a two-piece toilet with a dual flush system, meant for people who want something straightforward day to day, but also want the option to use less water when it makes sense. If you live with other people, if you have kids, or if you are just tired of dealing with finicky toilets that clog too easily, this kind of setup is aimed at those everyday problems. What makes it different, at least compared to the basic toilets I have had in apartments before, is that it gives you two flush choices on the tank. In real life, that matters more than I expected. The light flush is for liquid waste, and the heavy flush is for solid waste. I do not sit there thinking about water conservation every time, but after a couple of weeks it becomes automatic. I reach for the lighter flush most of the time, and when I need the stronger one, it is right there. The main thing is I do not feel like I am gambling on whether it will clear the bowl. Living with it day to day, the flush is also noticeably quieter than an older builder-grade toilet. It is not silent, but it is less of that harsh rushing sound that echoes through a hallway at night. In my place, that has been a real benefit. I can flush late without feeling like I am announcing it to everyone. In terms of how it looks and feels, it is a simple, clean two-piece design. The tank and bowl have the normal separation line you get with a two-piece, so if you are expecting the smooth look of a one-piece toilet, this is not that. The porcelain feels solid, and it does not have that thin, hollow vibe some cheaper toilets have. The seat area feels comfortably sized for me. I am not a small person, and I do not feel perched on it. It is more of a practical shape than a fancy one, and I think that is fine for something you use every day. Cleaning has been pretty normal. The bowl surface wipes down easily, and I have not had any weird staining issues. The two-piece seam is the part that takes a little more attention, because dust can settle around the base of the tank like it does on most two-piece toilets. It is not a deal breaker, it is just part of owning this style. I keep a small brush or cloth for that area and it stays under control. Setup was manageable, but I want to be honest about what that means. If you have replaced a toilet before, this is not intimidating. If you have never done it, you can still do it, but you need to take your time. The bowl is heavy, and lining things up without smearing the wax ring is the part that requires patience. The instructions were clear enough for me to follow without guessing. Once it was in place, the tank install was straightforward. The dual flush buttons on top were also simple to get working correctly, but I did have to adjust it once after the first day because the button feel was slightly off. After that minor tweak, it has been consistent. Daily use has been the real test. I paid attention to a few things: whether it clears reliably, whether it leaves marks that require extra brushing, and whether it seems prone to clogs. For my normal use, the lighter flush handles liquid waste without any drama. The heavier flush has been dependable for solid waste. I have not had clogs so far, and that is with regular toilet paper use, nothing unusual. I did try a couple of intentional stress tests where I used more toilet paper than I normally would, just to see what would happen. The heavier flush pushed it through in one go in my tests. That is the kind of thing I care about, because I do not want a toilet that works only when conditions are perfect. One thing I noticed is that the dual flush design changes your habits a little. If someone in the house always hits the heavy flush out of habit, you lose some of the water-saving benefit. When I had guests, a couple people pressed the heavier option every time just because they did not want to think about it. That is not the toilet's fault, but it is part of real life. If you are buying this mainly to reduce water use, you may need to tell people which button to use for what. I also want to point out something important based on my experience. This is not a smart toilet. There are no smart features, and there is no mobile app support. I actually prefer that in a toilet, because I do not want software involved in something this basic. The only adjustment is the mechanical setup, and making sure the flush buttons and internals are set correctly. Once it is dialed in, it just works. As for how it performs over time, the biggest thing for me has been consistency. I have used toilets where the flush power changes depending on how recently it was used, or where the handle gets loose, or where the tank parts start acting up. So far, this one has not shown those issues. The buttons feel the same every day. The fill and shutoff have been steady. I do not hear random running water sounds after it refills, which is one of my biggest pet peeves. There are a couple limitations worth mentioning. Because it is a two-piece toilet, you do have that seam to clean. The dual flush buttons can feel slightly less intuitive than a classic handle if you grew up with handle toilets, especially for older family members. It is not hard, it just takes a day or two to become automatic. Also, like with any toilet, installation depends a lot on your floor and your flange. If your bathroom has quirks, you might need extra time or a plumber, but that is not unique to this model. Overall, my impression is pretty simple. It has been reliable, it has not clogged on me, it is comfortable enough for normal daily use, and the dual flush is actually useful once it becomes habit. It is not trying to be fancy. It is just a toilet that has been doing its job without creating new problems for me, which is honestly the highest compliment I can give something like this. If you have been using this toilet too, or if you are considering it and you have questions about what it is like to live with, leave a comment and I will do my best to help. Subscribe to the channel for more real-world reviews, and thank you for watching.